It's the Pikachu Project.
Hello and welcome to the Pikachu Project, a spoiler-filled re-ranking of all 22 Pokemon movies. We are your two expert hosts. My name is Gigi. I have seen every episode of the Pokemon anime.
And I am Walex, a doctor and a big Pikachu fan.
All right, so to summarize, way back in 2015, we watched all the movies that were out, all the Pokemon movies, the Pikachu Project movies. Those are the yearly anime movies that come out. We ranked them, and we continued watching them as they came out. Then the coronavirus hit the world, and we've been at home with a lot of free time right now. So we decided to rewatch all the movies in our original rank order from worst to best and see if we wanted to reevaluate any of them.
And so we have.
And so we have.
The list has been updated with everything but the ranking of this one final movie, which we will discuss this time.
Yeah, so let's go over the lists so far. Our lists start on the bottom with Pokemon Ranger in the Temple of the Sea in its very own special little category. One tier up on the bottom, we have Pokemon 2000. Above that is Genesect and the Legend Awakened. Above that, we have Pokemon Heroes Latios and Latias. Above that, we have Hoopa and
the Clash of Ages.
Above that, we have Pokemon the movie White Victini and Zekrom, or Pokemon the movie Black Victini and Reshiram. Then we jump up one tier again. On the bottom of my list, we have The Rise of Darkrai, followed by Arceus and the Jewel of Life. Followed, in Alex's list, he has Arceus and the Jewel of Life, followed by The Rise of Darkrai. Above that, we have Kyurem and the Sword of Justice.
Kyurem versus the Sword of Justice.
Kyurem versus the Sword of Justice. Above that, we have Diancie and the Cocoon of Destruction. Above that, we have Pokemon Forever. Above that, we have Giratina and the Sky Warrior. Wow, how am I remembering all of these? It's been a while since we recorded. Then we go one tier up. My list in this tier, on the bottom, is Uncle Volcanion. That's not what it's called.
No. Volcanion and the Mechanical Marvel.
Mechanical Marvel. We have our own versions of the names in this list. Above that, we have the 3D Mewtwo movie, Pokemon Mewtwo Strikes Back Evolution. Above that, we have Zoroark, Master of Illusions. Above that, we have Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. And above that, we have Pokemon the movie I Choose You. In Alex's list, in that tier, the bottom of the tier is...
It's basically the same list, but move Volcanion up 2 spots.
Yeah, so Volcanion is between Zoroark and Lucario. Then we move up to our final tier, the top tier. On the bottom of that tier, we have Pokemon the movie 3, Entei, something.
The Spell of the Unknown.
The Spell of the Unknown. I was like, that's some weird... Yeah. Above that, we have Pokemon the first movie. Above that, we have Pokemon Destiny Deoxys. And above that, we have Pokemon The Power of Us. And our very last movie, this was the reigning champion way back before, and we'll have to see if it gets knocked out of its place by The Power of Us. This movie is the 6th Pokemon movie, Pokemon Jirachi Wishmaker. So let's get into the plot of this one.
Mm-hmm. So, Pokemon Jirachi Wishmaker is the first movie in the Hoenn movies and stars Ash, May, Max, and Brock. So, for the Ash and friends, they are traveling through this kind of desert-looking area. And I think either Brock or May mentions that, I'm so excited to see the Millennium Festival. Once every year they celebrate this festival, and once every 1,000 years the Millennium Comet is visible. And so for this year, we'll be able to actually see the comet during the festival. Mm-hmm. I think that's how it works.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and so they crest this hill and look down onto the valley and see absolutely nothing, and they are wondering, where's the festival? And then over the title sequence, without any music accompaniment, a bunch of trucks slowly advance. I mean, like, no title theme playing in this one. A bunch of trucks start to approach the area, and these trucks, in a very magical and mysterious way, very carnival-ish, start to put up roller coasters, tents, all these things using weird technology sometimes, and other times using big bouncy balls that turn into houses and balloons. And eventually, but right before their eyes, and this is all being done by two people, a very magician-looking guy and this lady, and they put up this huge festival area seemingly out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And then they all go on some roller coasters, Pikachu and Ash, and
the next day the festival's open. They're having a ton of fun.
Mm-hmm.
They end up deciding to go. Oh, they buy. Is this when May buys the? She buys like a little trinket basically that has these leaves that you fold into it every day that the comet's visible. I think it's 7 days, right?
Yeah. And the kind
and you
of
were supposed to make a wish every day on it.
And the sketchy looking, appropriating looking salesperson says that if you make a wish every single day of the festival, then your wish will come true.
Yeah.
And so May keeps that with her, and they all decide to go to the Great Butler's Magic Show after having it advertised by a suspicious-looking group of clowns that look like Jesse, James, and Meowth, and are Jesse, James, and Meowth. Mm-hmm. So they all go to this magic show, and they do this great. They see this great performance by the same magician that they saw last night, who reveals himself to be the Great Butler.
And his assistant
Diane. So they're doing all sorts of cool tricks. They're making a bunch of birds appear. Swablu appear. And this and that. And then at one point, Diane comes up and is carrying this strange crystal.
Yeah.
And so Max hears a voice coming from the crystal saying something. I don't remember what it was saying.
Yeah.
And Max goes, what? I think that thing's calling out to me.
So he runs down to the stage, and Ash is like, what are you doing? And follows him. And
then walks up to Diane and says, hey, miss, I heard a voice coming from this crystal. And she goes, you don't say, basically. And Ash apologizes, sorry for messing up your show, but Butler just works it into the show and says, these two volunteers are going to disappear right before their eyes. And they do this cool disappearing act where they fire a hyper beam at a box where Max and Ash are sitting, and just before it explodes them, this trapdoor drops below them, and they are scooted down back into the back of the stage, and
where they come out, or the back of the auditorium where they come out again,
and they say, thank you, ha ha ha.
But then Team Rocket kidnaps Pikachu.
Then Team Rocket kidnaps Pikachu.
Reveals themselves.
And takes off their clown outfits and are flying out of the arena. And Ash says, I'm gonna get him. Then Butler says, don't worry about it, I've got this. And has, I think, his Dusclops do like a shadow ball or something and blasts them out of the blast them off, basically. And so later after the show, Butler and Diane talk to them and say, so you heard a voice, huh? This crystal actually is... It's
supposed to contain Jirachi, which is this legendary Pokemon that sleeps, but it comes awake during the Millennium Comet. And to wake up, it needs the Millennium Comet to be visible, and it needs to find a friend.
Yeah, and so you can see the Millennium Comet in the sky like a few times throughout this movie.
So they say, here, you guys take Jirachi with you in this crystal. And see if, you can wake him up. And they're like, awesome. And they also let them sleep in their van, in their bus van thing.
According to Bulbapedia, it's at this point that May buys a wish maker, which is what this little kind of like trinket is called. And so she points it up at the Millennium Comet and folds one little flap over to say, I've made the wish on the first day. But she won't say what the wish she makes is. And so they're all asleep, and then May starts singing her mom's lullaby, which is something like that. It's weird because it's not done by Veronica Taylor, the voice actor.
Yeah, they weirdly didn't dub that part, so it's the original Japanese voice actor doing the singing.
It's very obvious that the singing is not done by the same voice actor, and it's very jarring.
Yeah.
Anyway, the crystal glows and starts to float in the air with the sound of the lullaby.
And then transforms into Jirachi.
A cute little flying starhead guy.
Yeah. And so Diane comes rushing out. And, I think at that point they say, hey, you guys can sleep in our van.
Yeah. And then Max is now talking to Jirachi, and Jirachi's floating around being pretty friendly. Mm-hmm. And I think Brock or somebody says, we've heard that Jirachi can grant wishes.
Yeah.
And so Max says, I saw him first and he saw me first, so I get to make a wish.
Yeah, and he says, I wish for lots of candy. And May's like, that's a really dumb wish. And he's like, no, it's not. It's a great wish.
Yeah.
Because he's like 6.
Yeah. And so Jirachi makes all this candy appear and starts flooding the entire van with candy. But you cut away and see that it's actually being teleported away from one of the local carnival stands.
Yeah. And eventually the bus completely overflows with candy and pops open.
And then May is about to say, I'm going to make a wish too. But then I think Diane or somebody picks up one of the bags and says, I think this is from the nearby carnival stand, which means he's using Jirachi's using its teleportation ability, which allows it to teleport things from somewhere else. And May says, that means we have to bring it back.
Yeah, and May says to Jirachi, he's like, you have to bring it back, like make the problem go away. And Jirachi says, okay. So it teleports May back into the pile, haha, because May is the problem.
Yeah.
And then Jirachi falls asleep, so they have to bring all the candy back.
Yeah. So manually. Sleepy. I'm so sleepy.
Yeah. Then we cut to an Absol, in the distance, an Absol, which starts running towards the fair. Uh-huh. So that's day 1. Day 2.
Jirachi wakes up.
Oh yeah, Max and Jirachi basically have a lot of fun at the amusement park.
Yeah, they're playing together.
Rides together.
May knocks over a lighting rig, or something.
Yeah, because they're helping Butler and Diane with their show and with backstage and stuff. And Max and Jirachi are back there horsing around.
Yeah,
as
I
you
think
might say.
They actually knock over the lighting rig, and then May's getting really irritated at how they're not helping with anything.
And then suddenly there's this mirror. And the mirror breaks, and there's Absol.
Uh-huh. And Absol comes out and seems to want to attack
trying to get to Jirachi.
Mm-hmm. I think, basically, Pikachu and Torchic, are sent out to try to save Max and Jirachi. But then I think Butler comes in.
Jirachi like teleports them away, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, and outside of the tent.
Right, and then Butler comes in and says, "I'll take care of it," and then opens a booby trap and puts Absol into a cage.
Yeah.
And then Curlia makes it go to sleep using hypnosis. And I think at some point Butler mutters to Diane, or one to the other, says, I think they're trying to take Jirachi back to Farina.
Yeah.
And so there's some question as to what that is about. And then it's nighttime. May folds over the second panel of the Wishmaker, but does notice that Butler is going to the tent.
Butler has gone into because she's outside of the bus. Butler goes into the bus and leaves the bus.
And seems to have something, which actually is Jirachi.
Yeah.
Butler has abducted Jirachi now and has this huge electronic setup in the middle of his carnival circus stage.
Yeah.
And is talking about how, haha, it's finally time to achieve my goals.
So he puts Jirachi into this machine that kind of floats Jirachi, and he says, Jirachi, now open your true eye, your Millennium Eye. Right. And Jirachi, against its own will, has this eye on its tummy opened up, which shoots out a beam towards the Millennium Comet, which shoots a beam back, and basically the contraption explodes. Yeah,
and then we get a flashback just before, kind of around when all this happens, where Butler is revealed to be a part of Team Magma, and he has always wanted to use this little fossilized piece of Groudon and put enough energy into it to revive Groudon. And it shows a little flashback of him attempting this in the past, but then his setup explodes and Team Magma people are laughing at him and saying, you're not welcome in Team Magma anymore. And he says, fine. And then he runs off and decides, I'm going to find an energy source powerful enough to turn this little fossilized piece into Groudon. Yeah. And so that's what he was attempting again in the circus just now. But then turns out it still explodes, but he's not deterred. He's very excited about the possibility of having it actually work this time. Yeah. So Max and friends, basically everyone gets
gets Jirachi, and Diane brings them to the bus.
Well, so they wake up and are shocked that Jirachi is missing. They run into the tent to try to rescue Jirachi.
So they all have Jirachi, and they're kind of escaping from Butler because Diane has tried to tell him, like, this isn't worth it. Look what you're doing. But he says, no, I have to make up for my embarrassment. So Diane says, we need to bring Jirachi back to Farina. It's home.
Mm-hmm. So they all escape in one of Diane's other vans, Diane's van.
Yeah.
And Butler says, I'll get you guys.
And he has one of his Pokemon attach a tracker to the bottom, his Mighty Anna, I think, right?
Yeah.
Attach a tracker to the bottom of their van.
Mm-hmm. And then that night, May flips over another.
Yeah, as usual.
Thing. The next day, everybody's traveling along. The theme song, that Japanese theme song for the show is playing. They're on a big road trip. And night falls again after they've been traveling this long way to try to bring Jirachi back to Farina.
And Diane kind of updates them all on the story of Butler and his background. And that she doesn't want him to use that. Yeah. And then the next few. Oh, go ahead.
She says they were like childhood friends and they're incredibly close. But she says ever since this whole Groudon business started, he hasn't been the same.
Yeah, and she's like, I hope that once this is all over, I can get the true Butler back. Mm-hmm. So the next few days are kind of a little quicker. A lot of it is like,
more driving and every night
in the bus, and every night there's another little click of May's little wishmaker.
Mm-hmm. Ash and Max are skipping stones and having fun. So they're always having fun with Jirachi and during the nights.
And during these few days, we see May, folding over her little thing and looking at Max and Jirachi and looking sad because Jirachi goes back into its little crystal thing into the earth after the 7 days of the comet are over. And Max is starting to look a little bit sad too. This is day 5.
Yeah.
And Max even sees her do her little thing on day 5 and says, like, why do you
stop counting already?
Yeah, stop counting already. So he runs off to the lakeside of some kind, and Ash joins him.
In a rare moment of Ash understanding how to help people emotionally, sits down next to Max.
And Max is saying, like, Jirachi and is gonna leave, and then we're not gonna be friends anymore or something. And Ash tells him, I had a friend who left me once, and I miss her every day, but I know that we're always friends forever in our heart, basically. Mm-hmm. Right?
If you're best friends,
oh yeah,
you'll always be friends in our hearts. And so he assures Max that because you and Jirachi will be best friends, you'll never forget each other.
Max
you'll keep each other in their hearts.
Seems to be a little happier. Mm-hmm. So day 6, they finally arrive at Farina. There's lots of Pokemon everywhere, wild forest Pokemon.
Wild friends.
Yeah. And Max is refusing to fall asleep because he's like, no, like, I want to stay up. Because, the longer he stays up, the longer until tomorrow comes. Mm-hmm. And he says to Jirachi, let's stay awake until everyone falls asleep, and then we'll wake up and play. And then May sings her do 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 do.
Yeah, basically. And then Max falls asleep.
And Jirachi immediately falls asleep. Because they're children. Did we mention that's a song that their parents used to sing to them?
No, I don't think so. But yeah.
May says at the beginning that's a song their mom used to sing to them.
So it's the final day. Dawn of the final
day.
24 hours remain. So they start entering a cave, and Absol is there too.
Yeah.
And they realize that Absol has been trying to lead Jirachi home. They all go in, and
it's got this opening at the top of the cave.
Diane,
where you can see the comet.
Diane explains that once Jirachi goes to sleep, it uses all of the energy that it's stored from the Millennium Comet to kind of spread this energy. It retreats back into this crystal, and in the earth spreads all of its energy through the land and makes all of Farina's grass and animals, and everybody is sustained on the life energy of the Millennium Comet, basically. And so Jirachi's ready to do just that.
And he and Max say goodbye They say we'll be best friends forever. And Jirachi goes and opens up its eye and is going to start absorbing the light. When suddenly these purple beams come out and capture Jirachi, and a facade falls away to show that the hole is actually much bigger, and that Butler is up there with his doohickey machine thing, and captures Jirachi to try to bring Groudon back again.
Yeah. And so I think he successfully abducts Jirachi all the way up to this little not flying, but like up on a cliff face. He has a little machine where he already has the fossilized piece of Groudon set up, and he says, it's time, and lodges Jirachi into the machine. Everybody's trying their best to try to get Jirachi back. I think a Flygon comes.
Yeah, one of the forest creatures, and helps Ash.
Yeah,
Ash flies on Flygon around.
Yeah, and they try to break off the things trapping Jirachi, but they're basically too late. Over this whole period of time, Butler has been using the power of Jirachi. Jirachi's screaming, and like it's basically drawing this huge kind of like image of Groudon on the ground. And just as it completes, Ash and Max do successfully blast off.
To kind of like hit the machine so that it gets askew kind of on the side of the cliff, I think.
Right. And so the beam stops, but Butler's not worried because the job is already done.
Yeah.
And so from the ground, a huge, large shape of Groudon starts emerging out of the ground.
In a very gooey way.
Yeah, all of the lines drawn on the ground become the lines on Groudon's back, and becomes a huge, giant, very giant Groudon,
with
much larger.
Many extra lines that are glowing in a very golden way.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
Right. And then now, instead of being extremely happy, though, Butler is staring at it and going, "That's not Groudon!"
Yeah.
And then Groudon spikes.
Kind of starts rampaging a little bit.
Yeah, Groudon starts rampaging, and then its spikes on its back transform into tentacles.
Yeah,
and the
these
tentacles
like blue tentacle things
shoot out and start abducting forest animals. It engulfs Absol and sucks it into its big body, and it's this big gooey Groudon monster.
So it's grabbing Pokemon, and it's trying to grab people too. So now everyone's trying to like run away from the fake Groudon.
Right, it picks up Team Rocket.
Fake Hedgehog.
Fake Hedgehog.
Fake Groudon.
Yeah. Sonic Adventure 2 reference.
Yeah.
And all of the forest Pokemon get abducted into Groudon's belly, and
Team Rocket's also around. They get abducted. May and Brock end up getting abducted.
Yeah. And they're all trying to run away, and then suddenly you see like Salamence and Butler, and he says, I forgot, he's about to get tentacle attacked, and then Diane jumps in right in front and gets abducted instead, and she says, "If this is the last thing I see, I'm happy it was you, Butler." And then she gets abducted, and then Butler's torn apart.
Yeah.
He's about to get captured, but then his Salamence comes and saves him, basically. Yeah. And he's flying on the Salamence and meets up with Ash, who's on Flygon, and
he says, "Ash, we need to reverse the trajectory of the energy on the machine. If Jirachi can help us, then we can take the energy from Groudon, basically."
Yeah. So basically they're flying around. There's this huge action sequence. There's tentacles.
Reverse the polarity. That's it.
The tentacles are chasing them, but and I think Butler and Salamence are trying to distract the tentacles while Ash gets to the platform.
Yeah.
Sticks Jirachi back on and tries to reverse the polarity, I think.
Yeah.
And he's just about to do it, but then the platform like sort of collapses and like falls over, and they're about to get tentacle hit, and then
Butler comes in and blocks the tentacle and gets sucked in to
he
the
says,
Groudon.
"At least this way I can be with Diane."
Yeah.
And Ash, in a heroic moment, goes and pulls a switch, as he usually does heroically at the end of movies.
Yeah.
And the polarity is reversed, and it starts sucking.
Basically, Groudon's trying to attack the machine, but Groudon starts losing its power.
Yeah.
It starts being like kind of gooing away.
Let me see. I think at some point Jirachi, so basically all of it goes away, and
Jirachi become. There's like a meteor thing Jirachi becomes or something, right?
I don't really remember.
Like.
Yeah.
Yeah, like it basically like attacks Groudon and explodes it. I don't remember the details either.
Yeah, I don't really. But basically,
everyone gets.
Oh yeah, actually, it gets like punched all the way through its back, and then it like explodes into this giant.
Yeah, and everyone gets
pile.
exploded, and Jirachi, because they're way up in the air.
Right, they're all like falling down like hundreds of feet to the ground. So
Jirachi manages to teleport everyone safely back onto the ground, people and Pokemon. And Jirachi comes down. And it says, "Okay, I'm finally ready."
Yeah, and
to go back to sleep.
And when Jirachi's about to go, Jirachi says, "I've made so many wishes, and Max, you made all of them come true.
So I have one more wish. I want you to sing that lullaby to me." So May starts singing, and everyone joins in. Do 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 do.
Yeah, if you have noticed, that song comes up a lot in this movie and is not always very well executed.
Yeah.
At any rate, Jirachi flies away.
She says thank you, and it becomes a crystal again and like sinks into the earth.
The ground. And
it's the next day. And Butler and Diane say, "You know what? We're gonna live here now because we've realized the important thing is that we're together." Butler has seen the error of his ways. And they say, "Do you guys want to ride back?" And they say, "Sure." But May suddenly remembers Brock reminds her that she didn't make her last wish. And she says, "Oh yeah, I guess I didn't wish. It's okay because we all have to make our own wishes come true." And Ash
I don't think she says that.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, she basically says that though.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's pretty much it. And Jirachi says, "Bye, Max.
We'll always be best friends."
And then there's the credits, and the gang keeps walking around.
Yeah, they
places.
Walk around. They are stumbling around a path. They need a ride.
Yeah.
The weird creep appropriator picks them up
I forgot
on
about
the road.
That. You also see the castle from the Lucario movie.
For some reason, they're walking away from it.
Yeah.
And then you see the rest of the credits where you see all of the Pokemon as constellations.
Yeah, it's pretty cute.
And there's this big, weird kind of half Japanese, half English, like credits song of the do 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 song. Make a wish. It's up to you. Japanese. Japanese.
Yeah.
Japanese.
Okay, so that's Jirachi Wishmaker.
Yeah.
So let's talk about where it was ranked last time and why.
Yeah.
So last time it was ranked
Numero
#1
uno
on the list. Watching it, Jesus, Google Docs is freaking out. Okay.
Well, I mean, let's talk about why it was ranked #1, right?
Yeah. So for me, I remember really enjoying it viscerally. I thought it had a lot of like fun moments. I know we are both a sucker for the 3rd gen Japanese opening that they use the instrumental for a lot in the 3rd gen anime. And to see that be used over a like road trip sequence is just incredible because they really just kind of like open the scene with just in the song. It's really good. So that was like one of my favorite parts of the movie the first time we saw it. I thought it was really awesome for Max to have like an important role in this movie, and to have like a great relationship with Jirachi. I don't know.
For me, the characters are all just better drawn than in anything else in the series. Is kind of how I felt. We felt like Max.
You mean like metaphorically?
Yeah.
You always say better drawn, and I want you to like clarify what you mean because I know what you mean.
Yeah.
But...
I mean metaphorically speaking. Like they're very well realized. Like Max is being Max, May is being May. Ash doesn't really do too much, but he doesn't really do too much in that entire series. Yeah. Brock doesn't do too much either, but they're really good. I remember originally also thinking that the carnival scenes were very fun the first time we watched it. And we really liked, because we kind of placed an overemphasis on structure back in the day.
Yeah.
When we watched it in 2015. And the structure of the every single day having the little timekeeping with
really good.
Yeah, it was really good. It made it all feel like it was leading to a big climax.
Okay, well, no, I'll say that for when we talk about our new experience watching it.
Right.
Yeah, I think we thought it was a lot of fun, and
Yeah, and basically it was number one because well, honestly, maybe the truth of it is it was weird because it was one of the earlier movies that we watched, so we felt it was number one.
So we kind of number 6 we watched, so
yeah, like, and everything afterwards just didn't quite topple it, like in terms of
because when you put something at number 1 at that point, you have to like ask yourself, even for the ones later on that you also really like which, to be honest, we're not
really many. Honestly, the only thing that it had to do was beat Destiny Deoxys at that point, which we watched immediately afterwards, and it did, because we felt that while Destiny Deoxys was a great movie, it didn't quite have the same structure as this,
and the loving kind of treatment of the characters, because this movie really is about the characters.
Yeah, and a lot of great scenes too. We felt Jirachi was great. The
Butler and Diane are interesting. They're not just like random villain guys.
Yeah. We liked the fake Groudon.
The fake Groudon is really interesting and very creepy in a very like visceral way, especially when it's getting pummeled through by that comet. Yeah, it looks really creepy.
Yeah,
like it's very obviously an abomination of nature.
Yeah. And so we really liked. Also, Team Magma only represented in this movie. Yeah. The only evil team ever represented in a movie.
Yeah, Team Magma.
But yeah, the art, and also we thought that the carnival scenes at night and a bunch of the scenes were very pretty and very fun to follow.
Yeah, and so, just being able to kind of sit and watch things happen is really nice.
So the reason it was ranked number 1 was because we decided it was better than the first movie, and that basically put it at the top of the list at the time.
Yeah.
It was not toppled by Destiny Deoxys, and so it stayed.
Yeah.
Basically. And so when we were watching it this time, I was really worried that it was not worried, but I was ready to see a tough challenge for number 1, both because of the power of us, but also because I've over the years thought highly about Destiny Deoxys as a movie that I would show other people, and I have shown other people when they're like, hey, let's watch a Pokemon movie. But I've never quite felt the same way about Jirachi, and I wonder why that was, and if it would really be able to stay above Destiny Deoxys.
Yeah.
What did we think this time?
So that brings us to the current day. I, again, really enjoyed watching the movie. I thought it was great. I, again, really loved to see Max, have a great relationship with Jirachi and see kind of like his, I think they depict his like emotional journey of like being really sad about Jirachi leaving really well. It's like very heartbreaking when he's like at the end saying goodbye, and he's like, oh yeah, like, because the first time Jirachi's gonna leave before they find out that Butler's there, he like grabs Jirachi back, and he's like, no, like, like they say that you can make wishes come true, so let me make one more wish for you and make that wish that you stay here with me forever. And it's like heartbreaking.
Yeah.
It's really, it's very sad.
Yeah.
I also, what I was going to say earlier, this is very minor, but when May folds over her things, it makes a really satisfying click sound.
Yeah.
It's a really good sound effect.
Yeah. Watching it again this time, I think I was really surprised by how effective that structure was for building tension. It wasn't just that we were obsessed with structure. It's actually really good.
Yeah.
It gives you a sense of the passage of time. It brings back the nostalgia of feeling like you have like a 1-week summer vacation with like your friends or something, and every single day that passes, you're like feeling it ending.
Yeah.
You remember moments of like your friends that are only around for a few days, and you're trying to like not think about it, but
I think structure-wise, it's also really unique where like the first time he attempts to use Jirachi is pretty early in the movie. And then there's this kind of big in-between time where you're learning about the characters. I remember there's this one scene where everyone's outside and May goes back into the bus and Diane's in there. And there's like, I could swear, like 7 to 10 seconds of complete silence.
Yeah.
While May like gets a glass of water and Diane's just sitting there before they have like a conversation.
Right.
And it's like really effective.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't feel awkward at all.
Right. That's not even the only one. I think there's a lot of very effective moments of silence. It really does like reach into the back of your mind and make you think about like moments that you've had, you know, in like, when you're with your friends or something out in, these kind of quiet places out in the woods, on these road trips, these kinds of situations. It's really, really effective.
Yeah. And then, and then at the end, there's like a lot of action all of a sudden. So I think it's a really unique and interesting structure in that way too. But not just to talk about structure, it's also a very, I think the action part of it at the end is very exciting. It doesn't go on too long. It doesn't feel irrelevant. You kind of feel like everything that's going on is important and interesting.
Yeah.
Especially with that creepy Groudon. It's really creepy.
Yeah, it's really creepy and like powerful and apocalyptic in a way that no other major baddie is, other than maybe multiplying Deoxys.
Yeah.
Or I guess the space-time continuum. But,
I think there's just something about those tentacles, because Deoxys has those too, That's just always creepy.
Yeah, I guess, usually the big bad is a Pokemon or something, but this feels like something more.
Yeah, or like some dude with an eye patch.
Yeah, or like a big airship. The two major foes in Pokemon, a legendary Pokemon or a airship with a dude with an eye patch.
Yeah, pretty much.
And so having this really creepy abomination in this place that's, supposed to be natural and untouched
and
by
the way
man.
that it kind of was created is also like very understandable, I think. Like Butler's whole motivation is that he was embarrassed and ashamed in front of all of these people because his like thing didn't work, and so he's trying to kind of like get back at them. Essentially, which I think is a common human hubris thing that people fall into. So
yeah, like I think Diane and Butler are not like not particularly far from many tropes that they reach for, but it's believable, and you feel for them. You see how Butler has this craze about being famous and like being the great butler ever since his childhood. And Diane is like that.
I'm just remembering when they have the flashback to when they're children and Butler does a magic trick and she's like, "Wow, that was great, Butler," and he's like, "Great, Butler, I like that." I'm like, oh my god.
But wait and see the Butterfree or something like that. Yeah, and you see how that's turned him into a kind of power-hungry person, but hasn't strayed too far from his, humanity, I guess. Except in torturing small, cute fairies.
Yeah.
And Absol's cool. Absol breaks through the mirror. That scene's really cool. It's this kind of ambiguity of, is Absol bad?
Because you don't really know at that point,
Yeah.
They do give you some sense before then that like Butler's like not really kind of up to no good, because I think there's a little bit of a scene at the very beginning where they're like, some people seek glory or something, and there's these like shadows of people with like this crystal that you see them holding up later. But at that point you're really not sure about this Absol, so and it's nice to see. It's also nice to see Team Rocket kidnap Pikachu
in a movie. Maybe the only movie in which
I feel like it is the only movie in which they kidnap Pikachu.
Yeah. So, and Jirachi's really cute. I don't know that we talk enough about that.
Jirachi's really cute. I've seen people online be like, Jirachi's so annoying. Jirachi is not annoying. Jirachi is very cute.
Yeah, I think Jirachi is both really cute and also a great character, you see Jirachi acting childish, but also not, it's almost like, the way you see children, where you think that they're lighthearted and childish, but you see that things really impact them and they worry too. Yeah. And Jirachi worries all the time.
Like, it's not like it has no clue what's going on when they're like trying to use its power or like anything,
Yeah.
And it's great. Throwback to the Victini movie. It's great that when they like are trying to save everyone, Jirachi is very much like, "Yes, I will do this. Thumbs up. I agree. Consent."
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Rather than, so they all have like agency, and they all have a very good characterization.
Yeah. So comes down to the final question.
Yeah.
Has this movie
retained
its position as the number one Pokemon movie in the top tier? The answer is yes, it has.
For us. Because that's the point of tiers, right?
I think that's a big thing that we've learned from this podcast, is that really the tiers are more important than the placing of the movies within the tiers. Not to diminish the excitement of our reveal or anything, but but because when we've talked about these tiers, and this will kind of flow into the next part of the conversation. When we've talked about these tiers, like we've talked about how like the point of the tiers is that, let's say with this top tier, we put Jirachi Wishmaker at the very top of the tier. If someone came up to us and said, actually, I think Pokemon the first movie is like the number one Pokemon movie, we'd be like, okay.
Sure. Yeah, it's really good.
It's a really good movie. That's fair. If someone said the Entei movie, which is at the bottom of this tier for us, is the best Pokemon movie, we'd be like, yeah, sure. It's a great movie.
Yeah.
But if someone said, I don't know, Lucario and the Mystery of Mew was the best Pokemon movie, we might be like, I don't know, have you seen Destiny Deoxys?
Yeah, like, would you like to choose from this list of 5?
It is really good, but like...
like, maybe this list of 5, if you haven't watched any of the movies in here, maybe one of these will,
Yeah.
Like...
So the lesson is not that if you don't think Jirachi Wishmaker is the best Pokemon movie, you're wrong. The lesson is, if you don't think one of these 5 movies is the best Pokemon movie, you're wrong.
Yeah. Because honestly, if you put, like, I will, like, not fight you, but, like, I will
question you.
Talk to you extensively about about the potential flaws or benefits or how recently you've seen the movie of things like, let's say...
Zoroark and the Vast Revolutions.
Yeah, if you say that is the best Pokemon movie ever made. Like, I will not have a conversation with you if you have any of these 5 movies at the top. I think they're all really good. Anybody could have them as your favorite.
And then if you say, like... Pokemon Heroes Latios and Latias is the best Pokemon movie, we would be like, well, obviously you haven't seen any Pokemon movies since the 2nd generation.
Yeah. But let's talk then, why is it our best movie?
So I think it's a big reason, and this is always the elephant in the room when these things happen. We are both... I'm sorry. Okay, I just need to have a side note right now because we've been drinking tea. And I don't know if you've seen Steven Universe, but there's this great scene where Amethyst is, like, drinking tea, and then she just pulls the tea bag out and, like, eats the whole thing. And Alex has this thing that he does where he, like, sucks on the tea bag.
Yeah.
So he pulled the tea bag out and put it in his mouth. And every time he does that, I'm just imagining him just, like,
swallowing it whole. No, it's because when you suck on the tea bag, it has the most strong tea flavor.
It just looks really funny. I'm sorry. But anyway, I think a big thing that kind of is the elephant in the room, so to speak, when you do something like this.
The Don fan in the room.
The Don fan in the room. The Kaparaja in the room, if you will, is that... so we are 27 years old.
Yeah.
We were age... 6 to 7 when Pokemon was kind of at its craze height, 6 to 8. Mm-hmm. We are of a certain age and have a certain level of nostalgia for certain things. Mm-hmm. Pokemon Ruby was the game that I played the most, period, as a kid. Yeah. Like the video game, the any game, the like activity we had to write. When I was in grad school for library school, we had to write a paper on formative literacy experiences in our youth, and I wrote about playing Pokemon Ruby. Was a big thing that I wrote about. Yeah. So there's a certain era of Pokemon, and then after that I kind of didn't do anything Pokemon until X and Y came out, and I got really excited by the trailer like everyone else.
Yeah.
So I think we have a certain level of nostalgia and type of nostalgia for certain things and certain eras. I know there's a big group of people who started Pokemon on the DS. So I'm sure they have a whole big group of nostalgia for things that we don't.
I will clarify, though, that neither of us watched the Advanced Generation anime as kids. Neither of us watched anything with May or Max or anything as kids. We came back to that literally like a few years ago.
I'm not gonna sit here and say like it's entirely nostalgia, because if you look at our list, it's obviously not.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just the earlier movies are at the top and the later movies are at the bottom. Pokemon 2000 is the second to last movie on the list. And The Power of Us is the second to first movie on the list. So I'm not going to sit here and say it's entirely nostalgia, but I think we would be fools to say that doesn't play a role.
No. Yeah.
For us, I think especially having the 4Kids voice actors in the anime, I think is a part of that. I think there's a certain art style that the third generation still had.
Yeah, but I will say that
ones don't.
Old anime is a thing that a lot of people appreciate, because it's kind of hand-drawn style that is, even in things like the first movie where you have some 3D included, you do see like a higher budget, a higher attention to care that can't be just attributed to, we like this art style because we grew up with it.
Yeah,
there's something to the older art styles.
I think both of those things are true. So I just wanted to bring up nostalgia because we're not going to sit here and say, no, this is a purely objective list and there's no nostalgia. Yeah. But I'm also not going to sit here and say this is just a nostalgia-filled list.
Sure, yeah.
Which we'll also talk about that later.
Maybe. We'll see.
So I think that's a part of it.
Yeah, for sure.
I think it's also just the type of movies you like, you know. I think one of the reasons that I really like Destiny Deoxys, for example, is that I really like science fiction.
Yeah.
And it's a very good, exciting science fiction story. So to me, you know, Entei movie was a great example of something that, you know, changed its position for me because of an experience that I had that I had not had before. So I think part of it is just like, you know, what you connect with, the type of stories you like. I know both of us really like this sort of story where a lot of it is silence. A lot of it is kind of like, you know, quiet observation of things going on.
Yeah.
A lot of it is the phenomenal Advanced Generation song over a road trip, like things that we like in movies. You know. Yeah,
speaking of nostalgia though, like this movie is a nostalgic movie not just because of the art and the voice actors and all that, but because it does seem to like kind of like harken back to like, you know, quiet moments and like camping and all of that stuff that I've mentioned previously. I think a few other reasons that it's the number one for me is
it's nostalgic in more of an aesthetic sense too.
That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
The other reasons that it's number one for me, and this ties a little into nostalgia, is that let's look at the second place winner here, The Power of Us. It has Ash and a ton of new characters. And for me, I had to think, you know, is that movie better or is this movie better? I think a lot of the moments in the other movie in The Power of Us are fantastic. I think a lot of the relationships are fantastic. But this focuses so much on characters that we've built a strong relationship to in the anime, like Max and May and Ash. And you think about how, you know, this movie is like a moment in their life, and you're like, do I care about, you know, how much do I care about Ash? How much do I care about May? How much do I care about Max? It plays a huge part in whether or not you like this movie. If you don't care at all about any of those characters, then, you know, maybe you'll like this movie less. You know, we like Team Rocket, you know?
Yeah. I think that's a big part of it, too.
And they behave more like they did in the old anime, too. And, you know, not just because it's the 4Kids voice actors, but because of the way just kind of the action goes. Whereas in The Power of Us, for example, Ash doesn't behave strongly like... I mean, he behaves kind of like he does these days, but he behaves like a weird, like, brand mascot, like along with Pikachu.
Very much a brand mascot.
Yeah, like even like he's like the least human person in The Power of Us.
He's the least interesting character.
Yeah, he's like a weird brand mascot. Whereas, like, you know, these feel very much like the characters you grew up with, especially since Ash brings up that moment where he's like, "I miss Misty every day."
He doesn't say Misty, but you know he's talking about Misty. Also, that's only in the dub. Just by the way,
only in the English dub, and that's not nothing, right? Like, we are nostalgic for the 4Kids, you know, generation, you know, like, and they're nostalgic for themselves. They miss, you know, the voice actors miss having Misty on the show, you know, and so those kinds of moments too really harken to like, how much do you care about Ash and the relationship that Ash has with characters? How much do you care about May? How much do you care about Max?
I mean, I think one thing that I said before when we were talking about it after we watched the movie was, after we watched Jirachi, was that I think The Power of Us is like a really, really good modern Pokemon movie. Yeah. And that Jirachi Wishmaker is a really, really good old school quote.
Yeah,
Pokemon
exactly.
Movie. You know.
So
which are different things, you know.
Yeah, and like, you know, we talked about some of this in The Power of Us, where like each trainer in The Power of Us has one Pokemon that's their partner. It's the very like Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee generation of Pokemon trainers and things.
Part of that is that I'm not going to sit here and say that they ever made a Pokemon movie without thinking about the global brand, because
of course.
The first Pokemon movie, when it was made, they were definitely already thinking about and concerned about a global brand. I actually just finished a book called Pikachu's Global Adventure: The Rise and Fall of Pokemon. It was published in 2004, just for context.
Yeah.
And it was really interesting. There was a lot of it's academic papers basically about the Pokemon phenomenon from like researchers in children's culture and stuff like that. And they talk about how, like, you know, there was a real hyper awareness in the Pokemon Company, both in Japan and in the United States, about you know, building a globally palatable brand. So I'm not going to say that was never a concern, but I do think 20 years later, there is a different kind of like image of branding Pokemon than there was when they thought this is going to last 5 years. You know, this is not the new Disney, but now we know it's the new Disney. So.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Anyway, so, you know, the way that we summarized things before, the Destiny Deoxys being the summer blockbuster, I like to think of this as like, you know, our favorite episode, the quiet moment from like our childhood.
In many ways, it feels like a super long episode. It feels more like the anime that I think than a lot of the movies do. Yeah,
it's like, you know, a little classic we fondly remember, even though obviously we didn't watch this until 2015. Yeah. But, you know, it's in a way, it's, you know, reaching back to that kind of old Pokemon feel. Yeah. And makes you feel all of those things when you thought Groudon was exciting and Kyogre was exciting, you know? Yeah. Like, you know.
Thinks Groudon's... I didn't even think Groudon was exciting when I played Pokemon.
But, you know, like just think about old legendaries like that. Yeah. So, you know, for us, that has to take it above The Power of Us, which, you know, is like Pokemon as it could be, which is new and exciting, and I'm excited for the next movie, Pokemon Tarzan, Pokemon Coco. Yeah. Because it has the same director. Yeah. So we'll see where Pokemon is going, but, you know, we'll always remember Jirachi Wishmaker as what the Pokemon as it was in a very fond place. So
sing it with me.
Congratulations, Jirachi Wishmaker.
Yay.
You made our wish come true.
But also, like, any of the 5 movies in the top tier could totally be the best movie, depending on who you are.
Next week, I'll probably start saying that Deoxys is the best again, like I did for the like past 5 years, except for the moment that we actually put things in order.
All right. So there's a couple other things I want to do for this episode. First, I want to kind of go on a recap of the list, starting at the bottom tier and going to the top tier, and just kind of like say any last thoughts we want to comment on. I think while we do this, we could also talk about some common themes that we see in Pokemon movies, both like, concrete themes like airships and abstract themes. Yeah. We have on the list point out how many of the movies have airships. Tried to get airship fraction / percentage.
Yeah, we didn't actually get an airship fraction, unfortunately.
But maybe we'll do that later.
For the bonus episode.
Yeah, for the bonus episode. But, so let's do a little bit of that. So we can start at the very bottom tier, which still, poor Pokemon Ranger in the Temple of the Sea.
It's not as bad as we remembered it.
It's not as bad as we remembered it, but it's quite bad.
Almost tolerable for somebody who is looking for the worst Pokemon movie.
Yeah.
In the past, I used to say that, like, even if you want to watch the worst Pokemon movie just to know, it's not good enough for you to sustain your time. Like, you'll not make it through the runtime. It's not even fun to watch as like a bad movie watch. Yeah. Now I'll say that it's maybe a good movie for a bad movie watch. It was not as bad as we remembered. We're like, there are things that are like kind of funny and stupid. Right. They talk about the Team Rocket Gazette in there, you know.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And then you get to see like how terrible the scene is.
You see everyone like flying around in the golden tubes, which is
or
very
like
silly.
When Ash stuffs May in a tube, and that's incredibly romantic to some people.
I know. It's horrible. But yeah, I would say the only reason to watch Pokemon Ranger in the Temple of the Sea is if you want to watch every Pokemon movie like we are. Yeah.
I was just thinking like, you know, red flags from your Tinder date or something. Yeah. Stuffed me in a tube.
Maybe we should rename this bottom tier test video do not watch.
Test video do not watch. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So next tier, unless you have anything else to say.
I was just going to say, like, you know, because if we're talking about jumps, it did not move.
Oh, it did not move. Yeah, that's the other thing we want. Yeah, we're talking about like any major jumps.
Except it just got more lonely because Pokemon 2000. Now we can transition.
Yeah,
has moved up in the world.
Not very much, but it did move up a tier. It did move up its position, but it did move up a tier.
It's still the second worst movie ever. Pokemon movie ever.
Yeah.
But it is now not as nearly as bad as Pokemon Ranger.
Yeah.
And I'll say that for the case. Like, I liked, what's her name, Melody, and, like, I liked, you know, some of the Team Rocket lines.
The characters were
like,
a lot more interesting.
We're here to save the day, or we're here to be good this time, Team Rocket. You know, like, some things about that movie totally like not salvages
right
it
now.
or
I
redeems
feel more like the Frozen one.
Yeah, a few things that are still a little quotable, a little fun.
Yeah.
Not nearly as bad as Pokemon Ranger.
Yeah, but like
worth a watch if like this is the only movie you care about.
Worth
watching.
a watch if you love Lugia.
Yeah. Not even, but
yeah, that's true.
Sure.
Lugia's not in the movie that much.
Yeah. And then moving up.
Let's see. Well, we don't have to do like movie by movie. I'm just kind of thinking
true.
like, I think one thing that's common in a lot of these in this like kind of lower tier is there's a lot of like you're not really sure why they're fighting or why the bad people are doing what they're doing. I think that's a common theme down here.
Yeah.
Genesect movie, they just spend too much time fighting, and it gets really boring. Latios, I don't know what anyone's motivation is.
Yeah.
Victini, I kind of don't know what anyone's motivation is.
Hoopa movie.
Ring, the obvious motivation is to have a bunch of legendaries on screen.
I know. They just had no restraint.
Yeah.
Yeah. So really this tier, and one thing that I've noticed that is easily noticeable with this new ranking, we actually have really clean tiers. Each of them has like 5 or 6 movies in it.
Yeah, they're a lot more even than in the original one where I think mine was a little more even, but my middle tier was a little bigger and your second tier was a lot bigger.
Yeah.
I think that was the longest of any of our tiers was your second tier.
Yeah. At any rate,
Victini, speaking of which, jumped down quite a bit.
Yeah, I think it's a victim of like structure. Yeah. Where like it has a coherent structure, it has coherent motivations, it even has a bad guy who's not even that bad or something. Yeah. All of the like point brownie point measures of
it's
a good movie. It's
just the execution is like not that engaging.
It's just not engaging, not interesting, not exciting. Like the characters
really
are not endearing. It's like the blandest, and
a lot of the, like I said, a lot of the specific actions that are taken, I'm like, I don't understand why they're doing this.
Yeah. Like it doesn't have a single hippopotas like the Hoopa movie does, you know? It doesn't have a single moment of like cuteness or something. It just is so bland.
Yeah. I think that's the only one in that tier that like had made a big jump.
Yeah, everything
the rest
else...
of them were already down there, and I think well-deservedly.
Well-deservedly, yeah.
So let's go up to that next tier, which is our middle tier, the enjoyable enough / real movies tier.
Yeah. Where almost all of the Gen 4 movies sit, with the exception of Zoroark. Yeah. The entire Gen 4 trilogy.
Yeah.
And I think they're a great emblem of this of this tier. Capping off at the bottom with Rise of Darkrai or Arceus, whatever. Yeah. And at the top with the Shaman, where they're just very, like, I almost would say, like, good enough movies. They're very, like, they're entertaining. You love Piplup, like, they're great, like, with big, quotation marks. Like,
yeah, they're great, except there's also a lot of stuff that kind of takes you out of it. Pretty much.
That makes me, I feel like this tier is maybe the, your average Pokemon episode tier. Or, like, the average Pokemon episode you like, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know.
I don't know. Most of the episodes you don't really care that much
I think the
about.
issue is with the episodes, they're usually trying to do something on like 1 to 10 scale, and the movies are typically trying to do something on a like 80 to 100 scale.
Yeah, true.
Which, if you don't do well, is a little more irritating.
Yeah. But we really do like these movies. They're very
Yeah. For me, Diancie moved down a little bit in this tier. I think I still like it just as much. I think I was just a little more aware of. I don't really care about these very thematically dressed villain guys.
Yeah, the Cura movie is sitting here after a dramatic fall from
Cura movie.
The middle of the kind of B tier.
Yeah, another victim of structure in the first one.
I think,
really not a plot hole in it, but really also like not that exciting.
Yeah.
Except for Iris, I will always enjoy Iris. Just abruptly being like, let's steal an airship, and then knowing how to pilot an airship / blimp.
Still the best Gen 5 movie, tragically.
I know, love Gen 5. I remember when I was watching through the whole anime, I was getting to Gen 5 and I was like, a lot of people I know like don't like Gen 5. And I wonder if it's just because like they don't like the games, or like if they're like low-key racist. They don't like Iris, because a lot of people complain about Iris. I bet it's not that bad. And then I watched it and I was like, I kind of see what people mean.
Yeah,
and I think the movies kind of reflect that.
But
it's not like bad. It's just like not good,
Yeah, but at least we'll have, even though it dropped a lot, it's still the best Gen 5 movie with good reason. We enjoy it.
Yeah.
Silent
they
is
make
great.
they make like a whole strategy and they all split up and it's like, wow, they have an effective plan for once.
Adorable Darumaka
lunchboxes. Like throwing yourself at things.
Yeah, the lunchboxes are cute.
I really want those Darumaka lunchboxes.
All of the I actually really like the legendaries now. I want to catch one of the Swords of Justice in one of the games because I think that they're cool now.
I think a more positive thing to talk about is the Shaman movie, which jumped up.
Yeah.
Not a whole lot, but I think significantly enough.
We didn't do
we thought
justice.
we wronged Shaman. We thought Shaman was annoying. Shaman was not annoying. Shaman was very cute. And well characterized.
Yeah. A great little hedgehog, a great sassy hedgehog.
Yeah.
We didn't,
And a great reverse world, a great master apprentice relationship.
Yeah. Shaman movie was wronged.
Yeah, Shaman movie was wronged.
But not by that much, ultimately.
Yeah. I think the always the big embarrassment for me is the Celebi movie that has moved down from that top tier.
2 tiers
down. Very rightfully. Although again, I was predicting that would happen, and I would have been shocked if it didn't.
Yeah.
With that god-awful 3D. I don't know how... Because, we're watching movies that were either before or after the Celebi movie, and the 3D is so much better. It's so much more tasteful. So I don't know what happened there. Yeah. Maybe there was a budget issue or something. It was just really bad.
There's some moments where I feel like we're still being too generous to the Celebi movie, but that's not fair. We like Sam. We like the Butterfree.
Yeah.
We like Celebi, the little onion
we
fairy.
Like the canon implications.
The canon implications.
Celebi and the canon implications.
Yeah, we like... Suicune jumping around on the water and purifying it.
I love Suicune.
Yeah. So yeah, we like them all. They're great, but not really.
We love Pichu.
We love Yami Yugi. Yeah.
Saying Pichu.
Yeah, we would watch any of them, like honestly.
Yeah.
But only us. We would never recommend them.
Yeah, if someone asked for a recommendation, I probably wouldn't pick anything from this tier.
But one of these days we'll watch the Shaman movie again, maybe. Who knows?
Maybe. I wouldn't go out of my way for it. But...
Probably not.
Okay.
Because we would much rather go back and watch the second tier, which is already much more rewatchable.
Yeah.
I want to give a huge shout out to the Zoroark movie, which I wronged, I feel like.
Yeah.
Gigi had it quite up.
Yeah.
But the best villain in all of the movies in the Zoroark
movie.
Really,
really a fascinating plot, I think.
Yeah.
More so than even some of the top tier movies. A really fascinating plot that they unravel in a really effective way.
Really nasty corporate, head that you really want to see get his due, and he does get, very satisfyingly toppled.
Including Zoroark very unnecessarily, tricking him into, falling down into an entire stadium too.
Yeah, so everybody
at the very end.
Yeah.
Stare at him judgingly.
Just a bad person who chokes Celebi.
Yeah.
Of course the Volcanion movie, which I'll talk about over and over again.
Which moved up for me. Again, not a huge amount, but did move up for me.
So I feel like that's our trade. You wronged the Volcanion movie.
Yeah.
It's Soul Heart.
Yeah, it's Soul Heart.
It's you don't always remember exactly what happened in that movie because there's an airship and there's some kids you don't care about.
Yeah.
But then you remember the part where Meowth is tied up and saying, "It's quiet. I can't hear it anymore."
Yeah.
And then
and the Gulpin.
Yeah, and the Gulpin who was abused, and the last thing that his trainer did before abandoning him was give him a big hug.
Yeah. Fun fact that I learned yesterday, the voice actor for Volcanion in this movie also voices Dr. Eggman in everything. So
all the Sonic stuff.
Yeah, so there's your fun fact.
Yeah. So both of those we wronged, and maybe both of us wronged to different degrees.
Yeah.
But I wronged more. I choose you.
Yeah. And I almost wronged because I was also prepared to be it's probably not that good, and then I was crying because I'm a rube, basically. We're all just rubes to Pokemon.
Yeah, but at the same time, I wasn't smart enough for I choose you. It was too sophisticated for me the first time. It's abstract. It's impressionistic.
I wish it was better so that I could actually say that, and it's partially true. It is very abstract, impressionistic. But it also is kind of a little confusing.
It tackles the impossible task of saying all that Pokemon says in one movie.
Yeah.
And it does it by metaphor rather
Yeah.
than attempting to say like a specific moment or a specific thing that's supposed to represent it.
Yeah.
It says it like by metaphor
Yeah.
of like all the Pokemon series.
Yeah.
So good on
we
you.
used to run like this all the time.
I know, like many great moments.
Oh, we also learned. I think we were. I forget who. Which I think you were looking at some interview with one of the directors or something about I Choose You, and they said that the scene where Ash dreams about a world without Pokemon was actually originally thought up for the Darkrai movie.
Oh, yeah.
To be his nightmare, but they were like, this is a little too wild, basically, and they saved it for this extremely wild movie.
Yep.
I think the one movie in this tier that I think both of us could simultaneously say we have wronged and we have, that we have wronged in both directions is the Mewtwo 3D movie, where we will never know where to put it.
I won't even talk about it.
I know, you were just going to try to pass it by.
I was going to put it under the rug because it doesn't matter to me.
Yeah.
You know what it is.
Where that's the one movie that, like, if you put that in any tier, I'll be like, fine, you're right. I don't care.
Yeah, and also it doesn't matter because you don't need someone to rank it against the other ones. You know what it is.
Yeah.
Go watch it if you want to or not, but it is kind of pretty. I think that watching the first movie again...
If you want to see a very fat Pidgeot, it's really good.
Watching the first movie again reminded us that they made some smart changes, like replaced a bunch of, like, Viking stereotypes with, like, a fun Lapras boat.
Yeah.
Or, like, made a really cool, ornate, like, Mewtwo castle, the very gothic Mewtwo castle.
Which we didn't realize was so much more ornate, because we watched the first movie as kids, and we're like, wow, look at this ornate castle. And then we watched it again, and we're like, this is not ornate.
They did a good job of making the Mewtwo movie more as you remember it than as it actually is, which is still really good for reasons that we'll talk about.
Yeah.
In the top tier.
Yeah. Anything else about these? Lucario's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Never gonna underestimate Surprise Lucario face.
Surprise Lucario face.
Our
Very
new favorite
good.
saying.
Everyone's in costumes. That's always fun.
Yeah. Great, cute Pokemon playing with each other. Scenes at the
Ash
start.
being extremely immature.
Yeah.
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 A very sad and surprised Lucario. He truly got his due. If you're a Lucario fan, we have a movie for you. It's called Lucario and the Mystery of Mew. If you're a Mew fan, it's still a good movie.
There's a lot of Mew in that movie.
Yeah.
I would say the movie that has the second most amount of Mew, second to the first movie.
Yeah.
Top tier. I think we've got a good variety here. We've got summer blockbuster Destiny Deoxys. We've got tearjerker, emotional turmoil, exploration Entei movie.
Yeah.
We've got The Power of Us, actually excellent movie.
Yeah, and like a vision of the future of Pokemon movies too, because that was the first movie with a new director that wasn't Kunihiko Yuyama.
I know.
And now this is what we can expect more. I think it almost represents also, if you see, in my opinion, I feel like there's been a shift in the way that the animes and stuff have gone to, like Twilight Wings, but also like Pokemon evolutions and stuff. We're long past the days of Ash walking around a big forest.
Yeah.
Like sure, like that happens in Kalos, but almost like
I think it happens in the new anime too, which is coming to Netflix.
Yeah.
First 12 episodes, I think in June. Crazy. Coming to Netflix. Anyway.
But yeah. Pokemon is becoming interesting in the post-Pokemon Go world.
Yes. Yes.
And
absolutely.
It's a vision that, maybe that's not a bad thing. At least you don't have to be afraid.
Yeah. I'm not afraid.
I'm not afraid. Yeah. So we're in support of it, but we'll always remember, the good times we had in the old style.
I think to me, to get a little political, and I'm just kidding. I think to get a little political, I think that the good thing about Pokemon, and that makes me feel like Pokemon is still good, especially after reading that book. Mm-hmm. I think that Pokemon, and especially Game Freak, are always trying to make a great game for young children. Yeah. And I think that's why Pokemon continues to succeed, rather than trying to make a game that a bunch of 25 to 35-year-olds wish was the Pokemon for them. I'm glad that they continue to try to make great Pokemon games, great Pokemon shows, great Pokemon movies for young children. Yeah.
And I think The Power of Us is also a great movie for young children too. Like, you think about being onboarded onto Pokemon right now. I'm just like, I choose you, not the movie for you, young child. Yeah. I mean, you might like it, but you probably won't.
That's the one that's probably an exception. I think I'd just be confused.
Right, but the other more recent ones, like, because before I Choose You was what, the Kalos ones?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I think that all of those, the Hoopa movie, the Diancie Volcanion movie, all of those are great like entry points for young children who, just started watching the anime during XYZ or something. They're very simple. They're very, like palatable. They're appealing to a young audience today,
Yeah.
And I think the Power of Us does a great job of continuing to do that. You have a great cute Eevee. You learn to love Sudowoodo all over again, like the things that we did as children, they learn to do now. So I'm happy for the future of Pokemon. It's different, but we're not afraid of it.
Yeah, and we're not the target audience. So.
Yeah. Though we can still definitely enjoy some
Yeah, not to say that, something made for children is already going to not be good for adults or that it can't be.
Yeah.
But, it's important to me.
Yeah. And, young child, I would not recommend Jirachi Wishmaker as your first Pokemon movie, but it'll be a great one for us.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a great movie, and I think if you haven't seen it and you're a Pokemon fan who remembers being a child Pokemon fan, I think you'd enjoy it if you haven't seen it. I think any of these top tier movies I would wholeheartedly recommend seeing, although you've probably seen the first movie and you might have seen the Entei movie.
You probably saw those too.
Yeah. But the top three, Destiny Deoxys, great sci-fi movie, Power of Us, just a really good movie.
Yeah. Those two are the
Jirachi.
easiest to recommend, the Power of Us and Destiny Deoxys.
I think we just really love the Jirachi movie.
Yeah, but we love the Jirachi.
Yeah.
That's why I feel like, it wouldn't be a bad movie to show a young child, but like it doesn't have, oh my god, Rayquaza is so cool, like it doesn't have the Munchlax
creepy Groudon instead.
Munchlax is really cute, it doesn't have like those crowd pleasers like the Power of Us and Destiny Deoxys do.
Yeah.
But for us, Jirachi Wishmaker,
yeah,
it just hits something that none of the other movies get close to.
And
then
I'm sorry.
We'll end the podcast
oh
on
my god, no.
Make a Wish.
So speaking of credits, sorry, we are probably maybe going to do a bonus episode of some kind.
For all our adoring fans, we're going to do an encore for you guys.
Where we'll talk about some potential things. I'm not going to promise all of this, but talking about the intro montages. Almost all of these movies have a intro montage where either the narrator person or Brock, for some reason, says the world of Pokemon, something, something, something. So we might talk about those, rank those.
Ooh, I'm just like, do we get to count the part at the end of The Power of Us where he says the world of Pokemon?
I think we get to count that.
That's
it's the same
so
type
good.
of thing.
And the title card happens at the end of the movie. That's a good movie.
It happens at the beginning of the movie too.
Yeah, I know. But like with the world of Pokemon thing. Yeah. Oh.
Also, off of that best credit sequence,
Make a Wish.
both in terms of the song and the experience of watching the credits, I think we both have a feeling of what's going to win that one.
It involves a Pikachu holding some pom-poms.
Yeah.
Hint, hint.
Alex may talk about the best Pikachu moments in these movies, or the best Pikachu in these movies.
Yeah.
The best Pokemon in these movies, like that famous Hippopotas.
Yeah, it's amazing when you have a bottom tier movie with a Hippopotas that is truly inspiring.
Yeah. And we may also make our own trash tier lists where we might not even include all the movies. We'll just make like a top 5 of like if we had like all of our trashy
like against all objective measure,
unmitigated, like sort of like visceral, like oh my god, but this movie is so good sort of list. What that list would be and how different that would look.
Right.
And we might think of some other things to talk about, but
maybe we'll do that airship percentage.
Yeah.
Like how many movies in each tier have airships?
Yeah, airship percentage.
If there's a objective measure of the quality of a Pokemon movie.
Yeah, see if there's a correlation, a measurable correlation, statistically significant.
Yeah, of having an airship, not having an airship, having a villain who has good intentions, not something like that.
Yeah, so, anything else you want to say?
Well, as the end of our final episode, I just want to say Pika. No, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really have anything else to say. We might see you in the bonus episode.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll include our final tier list in the description of this one.
Sure, yeah. But of course, I hope you guys didn't look at that before listening to this podcast.
Maybe I won't include it.
I don't know.
Maybe I'll include it in the bonus episode.
Right.
But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to us kind of fill our time during this weird and crazy time with something that we enjoy.
Yeah.
And watch the top 5 movies.
Maybe you'll watch a movie. Maybe you'll watch a movie and like it and go like, oh, those guys are, not kidding around.
Yeah.
Turns out the power of us is really good. Like I never watched this movie, but I thought Pokemon was bad after Advanced Generation. Turns out the power of us, good movie. See if we affected things. All
right, so I guess that's farewell. We will talk to you all next time, whenever that may be.
Yeah.
I have been Gigi.
And I'm Walex.
And farewell.
Pika.